Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about a word that some people can be a little uneasy with this word, and understandably, but it's so important in helping you move your life forward, and especially healing from things that have happened in your life. The word I'm talking about is vulnerability. We need to be vulnerable, open ourselves up to allow the change to take place. Easier said than done. How do we do that?
Easier.
We're going to call upon an expert, and she helps people with this all the time. She's an amazing therapist, also an author of a great book called Emotional Healing Through Relationships, and she's back with us. Audrey Palmer is on the program. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Steve. I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. But I have to tell you, I get the vulnerability because many of us are closed, and I was somewhat that way. But in my journey, this is how I refer to it. You're in the car, press the button, the window comes down, the emotional window comes down, and it's depending on who you're with, who you talk to, comes down a little bit more, a little bit. Then there's other times putting the window back up.
Right.
Right. It has to be done to heal. And we're going to get into how that works. But when we talk about healing, what do we mean? I want to make sure that everybody understands. And by the way, it's my belief, and I'd love your take on it. We all need to heal. There's stuff that we all have things that we need to heal from.
Right. So we can look at it as an analogy to physical wounds. When we've been hurt, cut, or whatever, there's a time that's needed for the scab to go over, for it to scab over, for it to heal, for the pain to go away, and for you to start feeling whole and healthy again. It's the same emotionally. When we've been bruised and we've had traumas, rejection, hurt, pain, bullying, it causes emotional pain. And we need time to allow the healing to happen. And that can be using techniques, seeing a therapist, talking to someone, or just going about your life and find good, healthy people in your life to come alongside you and help you feel whole again. And whenever we go through pain, Steve, it doesn't take us back to where we were, but it moves us forward with more knowledge, with more wisdom, and more ways of interacting differently with the world. And so people often say, I've been hurt and I don't want to try it again because I might get hurt again. It's possible. But that's the whole idea of being vulnerable, allowing yourself, allowing people to come in, and the possibility that you may be hurt again. But you are going in with more information, with more wisdom, and the possibility to see red flags and know, hang on, I've been here before, not going to do it again. So we take pain, it moves us forward, it gives us information, it gives us more wisdom, and we can function differently with people.
Wisdom's a great word. It really says everything here in terms of understanding who you are. Side note,
absolutely.
If you don't know who you are, and you probably don't, you're not going to be able to navigate a lot of this. And that's part of the work. And that's part of how you help people as well. I'll be honest, 5 years ago, before I started doing the work, I knew myself, but I really didn't know myself. And now I feel I got a very good grip on that, what I need, what's important. And then you build resilience once you know yourself.
Yes.
And then when those things come up again, you're more comfortable with them. But it's right. We fear going back to those situations. And it's spot on what you just said. Bullying, been there, done that as a kid, made a big difference in my life in terms of confidence and worthiness. Parents getting divorced when I was very young. There's another one. All of those, those are things you need to heal from.
Right.
And you need to be vulnerable with yourself to say, all right, I'm going to take the shield off and then dig into it. What are some of the ways that you do that?
Well, let me just go back and say that sometimes when we've been hurt, it is wise. Go back. There's prudence in just saying, hang on a second, I need to just go to my corner, shut myself off for a minute to to understand what's going on in order to kind of emerge differently. There are people who keep getting beat up and bruised, and they keep running back to the same thing. And I want to say, hang on a second, you keep putting yourself in these dangerous situations. So let's kind of pull back, find your space, and then think about how you can interact differently with people. And so really vulnerability is the ability to share your feelings, your experiences, your behaviors with other people. It's a component of emotions. It's also sharing your cognitive beliefs that makes a person more susceptible to hurt feelings and in response to everyday life. But it's possible for that to happen. I'm sorry, I just heard a knock on my door. I look a little distracted.
Maybe it's opportunity.
Not sure what that's all about.
Maybe it's opportunity. Knocking on your door.
Right.
I love the visual that you just provided in going back into your corner. So I got the picture of a fighter, and I'm going back into my corner. And what usually happens, you have the coach, that whispers over the shoulder, hey, you might want to try it this way. Well, guess what?
Right.
You got to go back into the ring. The ring is called life, and you might approach it in a different way. Maybe you'll deflect something. You might not have done it the first time, and that's why you got hurt, and you need to heal. So that's a great video. I'm going to use that one. I'm going to take that because that's a great one.
Go ahead.
How
it can make it, being vulnerable is also scary because you also risk rejection, getting hurt again, or people even criticizing you. But it can lead to amazing benefits. It can also strengthen relationships. When you can genuinely say to someone, I've been hurt by ABCD, then they can, if they have the ability, develop compassion for you, and it strengthens the relationship. It really improves your own mental health. So if we go back to a visual of someone who's locked away and they can't reach out, you talked about resilience. One of the greatest parts of resilience is the ability to reach out to someone else. And when we lock ourselves away, don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we ruminate. And so we literally create stories and create reactions and then react based on those reactions rather than what the actual situation is.
And why are we doing that? Is that based on our past?
So almost everything is based on our past. And so I think I said last week that when a child between the age of 1 to 7, 8, thereabouts, a child is learning how they need to survive in their environment, how they need to function, how they need to respond, how they need to protect themselves. Everything else builds on that. And I use the example again of if a child has grown up in an abusive environment, they may forget when they get older that the parents were in constant conflict, but they've already experienced that when they were young, when someone hurt you, you hurt back physically, or you create your own stories or create your own ways of dealing with it. And so we just have to go back, undo, and do, I call it cognitive restructuring, retrain our brains to think differently about our circumstances.
I don't want to be negative because I try to roll positive, but it is a shame that happens to children, all of us, that the stuff we are exposed to, good or bad, pilots our life. I've never heard it said the way you said just now. And I understand the concept and have known that for a while, but we're learning how to navigate life from a clean slate, child.
Yes.
With the stuff that's around us. And it doesn't necessarily have to be bad things like parents fighting or whatever, but it could be just something you experienced, or it could be your brother or sister made fun of you when you wanted to sing with a hairbrush. And now you're like,
yes,
oh, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. Well, fast forward now, then you maybe have stage fright. You may be afraid to express yourself. All of that coming from your childhood, kind of sad in a way.
Well, let me share some good news with you.
Please.
And this is an actual case, a woman that I worked with. And so the strangest thing is I kept forgetting her. So every time I saw her name, I'd think, oh, there's a new client. And there's a certain way that I do my documentation for new people. And then I'd see her and think, oh, no, she's been here before. And this happened about 4 times. And I finally started number 5 session with saying, do you sometimes feel forgotten? And she said, oh, my gosh, absolutely. And that opened up a whole world to her. And she told me stories of her past. And this was really difficult where, a young person just checked out of life and nobody said anything. They're like, okay, you don't want to go to school? That's fine. And this is a teenager, 14, 15. And so as we opened up her life and opened up her story, she told me about a relationship she was really struggling with, and they ended up breaking up. And after hearing her story and her hearing her own story in a really dynamic way, we hadn't seen each other for a couple of weeks, and she returned a few weeks later and said, well, I did it. I said, what'd you do? Because I didn't give her any tasks to do. And she said, I tracked down my ex and I apologized to him. I said, really? She said, yeah, because you know what? Everything went through, it was all because of me. I was the problem. And so as she heard her own story, rehearsed her story, she thought, oh my gosh, I'm a broken person. Now, this is also a young woman. I'm very proud of her because she, at age 21, decided to go back to high school. I said, why didn't you take an adult class? She said, no, I wanted to go through the experience.
Wow.
Went back to high school and was able to get a job in a very respected organization. I'm one of a counselor in that organization for their workers. And so she was able to pick her life up, but also hearing her story made it really clear for her that she was the one struggling with relationships because of how she experienced relationships growing up. So there's a positive. Things can change. They don't have to stay in the dire places where they were.
What interesting insight and foresight that this individual has to even go back, in terms of school, and also to realize that maybe I was the catalyst for the relationship issues, but also having the courage to admit it.
Absolutely. I mean, this was someone who would just allowed herself to be vulnerable because there's a possibility that the guy could have said, I knew you were the problem. How dare you speak to me? But it actually repaired their relationship. And he said, you know what? I get it. And they had continued being friends. I don't know where things are now because I'm no longer seeing her. Sure. But I love that story because she allowed herself to be brave, looked into herself, sought help, and was able to make some reparative moves in this relationship.
Amazing. I have to believe no matter where that relationship is at this point in time, for her, there was lots of self-healing where, she let it go,
Absolutely.
How do you, now we're talking about vulnerability, so this, I truly believe it comes into play, but how do you get somebody to open up and share what's inside with the goal of helping them heal, which we identify that we all need to do?
Yeah. Well, the first place is really trust. They have to have a trust with the person who's sitting in front of them to know that you're going to, one, hear their story, contain their story, be the container for their pain without mocking or anything like that. And it takes a while. For some people who are really broken, it takes a really long time to develop trust. But once there's trust, they can then tell their story. And I do like to have people have a coherent timeline of who they are because it helps locate them in a certain area. And there are people who really don't have a coherent story, and you have to help bring that together for them. And then they can recognize themselves, the patterns, and then make changes if they choose to do that. Because that's also a choice.
We're going to take a short break and come right back.
Parallels Desktop, the #1 choice of Mac users to run Windows on Mac. Windows applications run effortlessly. Parallels Desktop is seamless and fast. Whether you need to run a Windows program, develop or test, game, Or just looking for the ultimate flexibility without having to restart? You're completely covered with Parallels Desktop for Mac. Fast, powerful, and easy.
This is a car. No matter how much you kiss your lucky frog, wish on a star, or do that thing you gotta do to get it to start, your car will eventually break down. And those repairs could cost you thousands, but not if you have Car Shield, like I do.
Car Shield is America's #1 auto protection company. Their administrators have paid out over $1 billion in claims and cover most vehicles from 5,000 to 150,000 miles.
I trust Car Shield administrators to pay your claims just like they paid mine.
I know cars break down. I don't want to pay for expensive repairs. That's why I have Car Shield.
Let's keep it real. No one wants to get stuck with unexpected car repairs. Have you looked at how expensive those can be? From the stress of the breakdown, getting towed, and then you're hit with the bill? It's basically a nightmare scenario, and nobody wants that.
With coverage through Car Shield's administrators, you'll receive 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental reimbursement at no additional charge. Plus, with Car Shield's nationwide coverage network, you can choose the mechanic or dealership of your choice no matter where you are.
I've been a Car Shield customer for close to 7 years, had 3 vehicles covered, and they saved me close to $9,000.
The best thing about Car Shield is just about everyone can afford coverage with no long-term commitment. So there's no more excuses why you haven't picked up the phone and called. At the end of the day, when it comes to your car breaking down, Car Shield has got your back like nobody else I know.
If you're driving without a warranty, you have to call Car Shield.
Yeah, you do. I drive with Car Shield because they're the real deal. Do yourself a favor and give them a call today. Tell them I sent you. And remember, Car Shield cars go farther.
Protect yourself now against expensive auto repair bills. Call Car Shield for a free and instant protection plan quote. Once your car breaks down, it's too late. Call 800-908-6126. 800-908-6126. 800-908-6126.
We are talking with psychotherapist Audrey Palmer today about vulnerability, which is going to help you heal.
Yes.
Going back to your book, are there sections of your book that address the healing and also about the vulnerability that we need to get that done?
Absolutely. So there's a chapter, all the chapters touch on that, but there's one specifically around forgiveness and the need to release some of our past. One of the things that I talk about is there are people who have hurt us in the past, but they have no knowledge that they've done that. And so they've moved on. And the person who's experienced the pain is stuck in this place of feeling angry, not letting go, when the other person's moved on with their life. And so when we look at forgiveness, it isn't for the other person or to give them permission to be as bad as they want to be. It is to release the individual from their own pain, their own nightmare, their own walls that they've built up that they haven't let people in, allow themselves to be vulnerable in order to move forward. And so I do talk a lot about forgiveness and the need to do that, not for their sake, but for the individual's sake. Yeah.
It is probably one of the most important things you can do in your life. I had hypnotherapy for forgiveness.
Right.
It's just one modality. There are many, many ways to get it done. It's not easy, though. It's just not easy, especially when somebody has done something major or hurt you really bad. Do you have any tips on moving forward with the forgiveness, making sure that it sticks, if you will? So
let me just go back to one. There has to be readiness for that. And so the first thing is to feel the pain and to be honest about the pain. There are people who are so unwilling to reflect. They're respectful of their parents. They love their parents as they should, but they can't seem to allow themselves to feel angry for one thing that they've done or many things that they've done. All parents always feel like they've done a great job with their kids, but it's not they're not experiencing their own parenting. It's their kids who's doing that. And so the struggle is to allow yourself to feel it, journal about it if you want to, but then go back and say, look at them. So I'll use an example to make it really clear.
Sure.
A father who has never been parented, has no idea what it means to be a father, decides when the kids are 10 years old that he's going to walk out on them. And so because he's given child support and he's looking after them financially, he has no idea how they've been impacted by his lack of presence. And so what I try to get the adult to see is, one, go back to the child. What did the child feel? But the second piece is, think about the parent. Think about that father. What did he experience? People can only give what they have to give. And so they end up developing compassion for their own parent to see how far that parent has come in order then to move forward themselves. And so first is taking it from the place of a child, what the child experienced. And then second is to look at it from the adult perspective. Who is the adult? And gaining compassion for that parent so that they can move on. The other piece is that forgiveness does not go in a straight line. It ebbs, it flows, it goes in circles, and sometimes something will come up that will remind you all over again of what happened. And it's for you to then make the conscious decision of saying, yeah, I was hurting, I feel it, but I'm choosing to move forward. And it's all a matter of choice. And that's where it goes to cognitive restructuring, making sure that we are in control of our own thinking. And for Christians who are out there, this is where it connects you to a passage that the Bible talks about, the mind renewal. You are going to be transformed when your mind is renewed. And so people often forget and say, well, grace covers everything. But the process of mind renewal is a conscious, deliberate one that we have to engage in.
Lots of process there, and thank you.
Yes.
Because it's so important. Would you say in the father situation that his approach to his children probably comes from his father?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things I do say to families who are struggling, and I said it just last week to parents who are now, where the kids are grown and they're struggling do we stay together? We can't do this. And one of the greatest gifts that they've given their kids is the ability to see that despite what mom and dad goes through, hell or high water, they found a way to stick it out, to be consistent, to be parents together. And that is an incredible gift that you can give to your children. And so, parents can only give what they have to give. And if they were abandoned, they may not know why they're choosing to leave, but they're thinking, okay, this is a scary time. I need to go.
Fabulous.
There are other people who make the decision not to have children because they know at some point, if the kids are there, they're going to bolt, and they don't want to do that to the next generation. It does rob someone of the ability to be a parent and to demonstrate and show love, and the ability to change the trajectory of that family.
I'm not taking anything away from any parent, but I can speak from my journey. Like you just said, we all think we're pretty good parents. I can say
yes,
that after I've done the work and, was vulnerable and learned about myself and why I react certain ways, if I could go back, and my youngest is 16, if I could go back, I would do it totally different.
Of course. Hindsight's 20/20, and nobody gives a handbook. And I know it's such a cliche. I never thought I would say that cliche statement. No one gives a handbook, but it's true.
It's true.
And we have to figure it we have to figure it out. And I do say that I wish that, I don't know what they do in the States, but they've stopped teaching some of the social studies programs here in Canada, and it's all math and science. But math and science isn't going to raise the children, the parents are. And if they would do some of this initial work of helping people understand relationships and the importance of those, it will do us a lot more help in the future of our generations.
Amen to that. And as I look back, I didn't take classes like psychology, and I regret it now because I'm fascinated about the mind and how we work with relationships and all of that. And I just read something today that one of the number one fields that people want to go in, and it's great to see this, they're studying psychology. And it's nice to see that we're open to that and maybe making ourselves vulnerable at the same time.
Absolutely.
Audrey, what's the best way to find you and learn more about the book?
So my website is genesisclinicalservices.ca. If you go on that site, and I hope you do, just click on, I guess, resources or books, and it'll pop right up. You click on the book and it'll take you right into the Amazon page. The other piece is there's a QR code that you can just download, and that will take you right to my website as well as the book. Do buy it. It's a good book. It is Christian-based, and so there are people who struggle. They don't want to go to a non-Christian therapist because they really fear that they will influence them away from their faith. I don't do that. I do work with people. I actually, interestingly enough, because I'm a Christian, I do get a lot of clients of other religions because they assume I'm going to respect their religion. And so I do see Muslims, Sikhs, Catholics, whoever, they come because of the religious faith.
Well, for sure. And it's the most important thing here is faith in something, but most importantly, in yourself. And that comes with vulnerability.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here today. Truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. We'll speak again.
Yes, we'll be right back.
Women are intelligent and ambitious. But after years of caring for others, it's easy to feel frustrated and lost. Many women find themselves searching for a place to direct their skills and experiences. If you are ready to uncover what you truly want, emotional healing through relationships can provide the support and insights that you need. Visit genesisclinicalservices.ca and click on the book icon. It's time to leave the pain behind and embrace your potential. You'll be happy you did.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So you see, son, good manners are very, very important. Someday, many years from now, when you're a grown-up, you'll be a man. And when you are, you should be a gentleman. Do you want me to go through it one more time?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, and excuse me. Sit up straight, hold doors open for ladies. If a door's shut, then knock first. Don't burp, don't swear, don't speak with your mouth full, don't reach across people's plates, keep your elbows off the table.
What table?
And don't interrupt. While we're at it, don't stare, don't use foul language, don't call people names, but do remember people's names. Always share your toys, play nice, and cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. On the bus, give up your seat to anyone who has trouble standing. Bottom line, treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
And stop picking your nose.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.